Hi, and welcome to this webinar. Today we're looking at brand protection. It's a masterclass, and in particular, we're going to be focusing on trademarks. So I'm Sophie. I'm an intellectual property lawyer at LegalVision. I assist all types of businesses, from startups to established businesses, to protect their intellectual property and branding collateral. In particular, I work with a range of technology-based firms and look at all different types of trademarks. In today's webinar, I'll be looking at what your business's brand actually is, why brand protection and IP are crucial to your business strategy, what aspects of your brand can you actually protect, what is a good trademark. You'd be surprised, there are some that don't make good, some brands out there that don't make good trademarks. And what are some common pitfalls I notice with clients and businesses out there? So let's look at the theory first. What actually is a brand? In the literal sense, as you can see on our screen, a brand is defined as a unique design, symbol, word, or combination of these employed in creating an image that identifies a product and differentiates it from its competitors. So literally speaking, what are you using as your brand? Is it a brand name? Is it a symbol? And this is your badge of origin for your services or goods, so that I know that you are Sydney Plumbers or Sydney Electricians versus, Colorado Dental. But really, from what I've seen and how clients are attached to their brand, a brand is really how you make your customers feel about your product or service. I think this quote encapsulates what a brand does. I feel, therefore I buy. Why do I choose to purchase a product over an identical product over another? Whether it be Lululemon over Lorna Jane, why is that? What does that brand do, and how is it capturing me as a target audience? A brand is the message you send your customers, and a strong brand can create a lasting connection. So I don't know, are any of you out there a lifetime customer of a particular business? Well, they've captured you. So why is a brand important to the creation of your business? Honestly, even from a legal perspective, it provides business value. This can come into play when you sell your business or license the rights. It simplifies purchasing decisions for clients. So if I see the Apple symbol or I see the Woolworths Fresh People slogan, I know what I'm buying. I've experienced it before. Your brand can imply quality, and it can allow you to command a premium for your product. It also builds trust and an emotional connection with customers. And finally, it can strengthen employee engagement. I'm not sure if you've walked into the Apple store, but I feel there's a general vibe of happiness in there. Let's look at some well-known brands, and I think this is really interesting, especially for businesses starting out with their brand. Aim high, I guess. So Nike, we all know, as you can see on the screen, that tick is synonymous with athletic or athleisure wear now, and that brand is worth about $25 million. It was started in 1964, and it's brought in about $34 billion in revenue. So if Nike was to be sold today, the trademark is an integral part of the business sale, and its value should not be overlooked. Similarly with Apple started in 1976, and its brand is worth a whopping $178 million, and they've brought in about $215 billion in revenue. So branding decisions from the get-go are really important, and I'm sure you all know the many trademarks associated with Nike. Even on the screen we can see Air, we can see the tick, the Nike motif, the swoosh rather. We all heard of Just Do It. So it's not just one trademark that makes up that brand. All right, let's move on from that warm feeling you see when you see your iPhone or your favorite shoes and take a deep dive into the law. We've already touched on the importance of a brand, but one thing that is often underestimated is the value of having trademark protection, or even seeking trademark protection. Why do businesses come to me for trademark filings? It acts as a deterrent to competitors. It assists with securing government grant. Investors, and this is a big one, really want to see that you've taken active steps to protect your brand, and that includes obtaining a trademark. And it signals that you're really serious about your brand. Ultimately, a trademark is providing you with exclusive use to your brand name in relation to your goods or services, and as a tool to prevent others from using it when you enforce it. So what is the value of trademark protection? It can provide a competitive advantage, credibility, and business value. Let's look at that further. So why do I say competitive advantage? It's, as we talked about before, it's a way to find your point of difference in the market. A brand allows customers to instantly recognize your business. Protecting your brand means that you have the exclusive right to use your trademark in relation to your goods or services. And I keep on saying goods or services. What I really mean is that's probably just trademark lawyer jargon for goods. What do you sell with your brand on it? That's a Nike shoe or the athletic apparel. And the service, or the actual retail store that Nike provides, or legal services. So you want the competitive advantage of a trademark. You can prevent copycats from piggybacking off your hard work, especially in today's market, saturated with many different online businesses. How do you cut through the noise? Creating a strong brand and being able to protect it. Part of being a trademark owner is policing that brand and making sure that any copycats that pop up, you need to deal with. Otherwise, I guess, what's the real point of having a trademark? Secondly, building credibility. I'm not sure if you've seen the TM symbol or the R symbol on packaging. TM indicates it's a trademark or it's an intention to become a trademark. You can use that at any point. Using the R symbol is when you've actually registered your trademark. So you'll need to obtain registration and the certificate before you can do that. I mean, building credibility is your best weapon, especially when you're pitching to investors, partners. When you think about licensing out your IP, so maybe you want to bring on a business partner, having a trademark and that trademark number is an easy way to protect your branding through a contract. Protecting your IP through a trademark also gives you flexibility to use the brand across your marketing material, your packaging, your website, and it's consistency for customers. Finally, trademarks increase your brand value, as we've just talked about Nike and Apple's worth. Intellectual property is not a physical asset. You need to register it in order to validate your rights. You can't protect an idea or concept, but once your brand is out there, you can protect it with a registered trademark. And it's an asset that makes your business easier to expand or make partnerships, for example. So we've talked about brand a lot. What actually is a trademark? It's a registrable form of IP that's obtained from a government body, and it's jurisdiction dependent. Jurisdiction meaning a country bound by the laws of that land. So if you're operating in Australia, you'd want to approach IP Australia with the help of a lawyer if you'd like. What can you actually protect? So a name, a logo, a slogan. You can even, funnily enough, protect sound, sense, shapes, different images. But the most common, 99.9% of clients come to me and want to protect their name, their logo, their slogan. So essentially, there's some requirements for a trademark. You don't just get it granted. And we'll go into this a bit further when we discuss the pitfalls of registration. But essentially, a trademark needs to be distinctive and unique to you in the sense that no other traders in a similar category of goods are using it. So one thing I should say is a trademark is protected in relation to one or more of 45 different goods and services. So there's a category list and you need to select from that list of what you do. So for example, if you have created an app and it also has a marketplace functionality, you'd select, off the top of my head, that would be class 9 for application services. and Class 35 for marketplace services. Then finally, once you've applied to register your trademark with the appropriate jurisdiction, in this case, Australia, it takes around 7.5 months. Once it's assessed, it's gone through an opposition period, so third parties can object if they feel that the IP office hasn't appropriately rejected the trademark. And then finally it's registered. It's for 10 years, and then it's renewed at the end of that 10-year period. Now, I mean, we've gone over high level what you can protect. Let's look deeper at what you can actually protect as part of your brand. So I've gone through a little bit of a list here. I'll explain what they mean, because probably a little bit of jargon that I use day to day, and you might not realize you can actually protect some aspects of your brand. So your brand name. It's best practice when applying for the trademark for your brand to protect it in large, capital font. Also protect how you use it. If you're using a fancy cursive text, you'll see LegalVision down the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. We've registered LegalVision like it appears on the screen, but also in plain text. And that's best practice. Why best practice? From an enforcement perspective. Also protect your slogan or your tagline. You might recognize, I'm loving it, or just do it. It's also important to protect your slogan as business collateral if it's unique to you, because it becomes part of your brand portfolio. It's an asset. You can also protect a logo. We've talked about the Nike swoosh or the Apple sign. You can protect this solo as it appears, or in connection with the brand name. There's a few variables there. So that's what a combined logo really is, protecting your brand motif or logo with the brand name as well. Essentially, when I help clients protect their brand, I look at how are you actually using your logo, your motif, and your brand name. And we look at what occurs the most and what would help from a longevity perspective as well. So if you are thinking about changing your logo in 6 months' time, I wouldn't recommend protecting it just yet. Now, an idea. Clients come to me often and want to protect an idea. That maybe, and you can look at other webinars in this series, but an idea can only be protected if it's expressed. There's registrable IP and there's non-registrable IP. So we're talking about trademarks specifically today in the context of brand, but just for a high level understanding, patents and design registrations are ways to protect your product and the functionality of your product if it's novel, inventive, and not yet disclosed. And then there's unregistered IP, so copyright, which is automatic in Australia, and contracts. But you'll have a chance to look into these further through our other series. Now, in terms of trying to protect descriptive terms, and this is what I was talking about before, some obstructions to registration of your brand. If you're trying to protect a last name or a geographic location, both of these are difficult to protect because other traders may need them and genuinely need them. So the example I give my clients is if you're trying to protect Sydney Electrical, other traders who are electricians in Sydney may have a landing page or may need to describe their services as electrical services in Sydney. So it's very difficult to do so. Same with a common last name if it was something like Smith's Store, Smith's Cafe, or Tom's Cafe. There are other Toms out there, and the law recognises this. Ways around this objection is by, you can obtain a trademark if you've used the brand over time, and then you'll need to provide evidence. Alternatively, a stylized logo can be a way to overcome this objection in the meantime, but it's difficult to enforce. And I think that's just what I want, I try to help you recognise. The best trademarks are made up words or distinctive words, and we'll go over that in a moment. You can also, something also to be mindful of is third-party material. If you didn't create it, you may not be able to protect it. So we talked about employment agreements before. Did someone in your business create the brand or intellectual property for your business? It needs to be assigned to the company in order to be protected. A hashtag, can you protect a hashtag? hashtags are really popular and they want to kind of drive people to your Instagram page or Twitter. So you want people to use them. So by virtue of that, it's hard to protect a hashtag with a trademark. It's possible, but it's a bit of a murky area. If you want all your clients or consumers or customers to hashtag your business name, that can be appropriate. But if a competitor starts using it, that's when maybe you would want a hashtag. And lastly, something to be reminded of about brand protection, domain names. Don't forget that. It's really important for your customers to find you on the web. And a domain name can't be protected with a trademark per se. Your trademark can be part of your URL, which does help in terms of brand enforcement and prevents others. But your URL is unique to you. It's a commercial consideration. So I tell clients, buy what you can, get the .com, get the .com.au, get whatever you can, and make it something that your clients will find that's as close to your brand name as possible. So getting started on your trademark application, I've kind of identified some questions you need to ask yourself before going through this process. So what are you seeking to protect with a trademark? Is it your business name, your brand, logo? We've just gone through what you can protect. So I think ask yourself, what am I actually trying to do here? And what do you care about enforcing in the long term? What would you care if a competitor ripped off? Have that future focus. We talked about what goods or services are you applying for? What do you actually do? If you can't really figure it out, write it down in a high level. Let's just say that you provide a dating app for people over 45. Well, what's your key service? Is it an application? Is it actually a social networking site? You don't have to focus on the nitty-gritty of how it works, but on a high level, that's what you're trying to protect. So that other people with app services or dating sites aren't going to rip off your brand. This is a good one. Who owns the trademark? We run into a lot of issues when the trademark's been incorrectly applied for in the wrong name. You can own it as an individual. A company can own it. More than one person can own it jointly. You could stipulate with an agreement that one person owns a trademark or a company owns a trademark and license it to another. Figure it out. But ultimately, it's held by a company. It's a separate legal entity, so you're not personally liable, and that might be favourable, especially as a startup. Next, is your trademark actually registrable? I mean, we've talked about that a little bit, but are there going to be problems with registration? Do you own it? Did you create it? Is it descriptive? Does someone else actually have that trademark and you're unable to use it? Is there an intention to use the trademark in good faith? You can't register a trademark owned by another. Or you see that maybe that burger joint from America's coming over here, In and Out. I think they already have their trademark. But for example, if they didn't, and you saw they weren't in the Australian market, and you tried to apply for the trademark, then that's not really in good faith. So that's consideration. Another one is, where will you operate? Map out where you think you are going to ultimately operate. We'll touch on that in a moment, but essentially you need to protect your brand in those jurisdictions from the get-go. Okay, we've talked a little bit about what is a good trademark, and I've raised some flags, but let's really go into it and see if this applies to you. So the best trademarks are made up or inventive words, and I love to harp on about that. For example, Kodak or Nikon. These are words that don't have a meaning outside of the trademark, which is really makes them really memorable. So the classic example with Kodak, the founder stated that when selecting his brand, he knew a trademark must be short, vigorous, and capable of being misspelled to an extent that will destroy its identity. And in order to satisfy the trademark law, it must mean nothing. So for some reason, he really got it right. Probably did his research. Unrelated words are really good trademarks. So for example, I think I've mentioned this a few times now, but Apple for computers, it's not really a known concept. Mongoose for bicycles. Choosing a brand name that doesn't have a connection to your goods makes a good trademark. Unique names are good trademarks. So we talked about last names, but if your surname doesn't appear over 750 times on the Australian electoral roll or in other countries as well, then potentially, it can be a good trademark as well. What names to avoid? Suggestive names. For example, words that are descriptive of the product and suggest the goods or services you sell, like creamy for ice cream or cuddly for pillows. Whilst these conjure, nice imagery and tell your clients exactly what you're doing, they may be rejected at the first instance from the trademarks office. Again, there's ways around it, but keep that in mind. Other traders might also use it to describe their products. Alrighty. So now that you've decided on your trademark, there are still some more pitfalls to look out for. Let's go through them now. Really important to do your due diligence before you invest in your brand. Some examples are clients have come to me, they've got a franchise and they haven't yet protected their brand. And part of being a franchisor is ensuring your brand's registered. The best thing you can do, even if you don't go to a lawyer first, is Google it. Does another brand exist? Really simple. And I think do your research on social media sites as well, Facebook, Instagram. You want to be unique. That's your competitive edge. Registering too late. So launching your brand and being unable to get the trademark, I think that's a big one. So again, choose your brand before launching. Have a few names, and a lot of clients are emotionally attached to the brand, and I get that because it is your baby. But sometimes the name you like the best may not be in the business's best interest. And I'll go back to the Kodak example. Pithy, short, sharp, and registerable can be important from a branding perspective. Something clients forget is registering your brand as a social media handle and domain name. Get those handles out first. We're a digital society. You don't want to miss out. Again, descriptive or common brand names. Same-day electricians, city plumbers, creamy ice cream store. The best trademarks, as you know, are made up for your industry. International considerations. We've talked about this. Ensuring where you'll operate is you're protected in that jurisdiction. Brainstorm with your business partners or yourself. What's your end goal? Where do you want to be in the next 5 years? A classic example I like to bring up is, why is Burger King in Australia called Hungry Jack's, that major American burger chain? The reason is they had a trademark issue when they launched in Australia, so they had to rebrand for this market, and that's not uncommon. I have a few clients who have to do that. Finally, protect your brand in China, and this is kind of my favorite point to harp on about. There are over 24 million trademark filings in China, and they're growing. China has become really sophisticated in its IP system and its enforcement system, and there's a large number of squatters, people who just apply for trademarks without good faith. So what you need to do, and I really recommend this to clients, is obtain your trademark in China before launching. If you have any intention to produce goods there, sell to that market, or it's a nice to have. I like this example of Carmen's Muesli. Before even launching in China, what they did was they protected their English name, Carmen's, and they also protected a translation, so the Chinese characters, as well as a transliteration, what the characters mean. And they chose something that really described their product. I think it was Australian good oats, for example. I may be wrong on that, don't quote me, but it was something along those lines. And we can do that for you. So protecting your brand name, your translate, and picking a transliteration. So what do the Chinese characters mean in Mandarin or Cantonese? So today, thanks for joining us. We've really discussed your brand, how to protect it, how it's an important piece of business collateral. Nearly every single business will have a trademark, whether it's registered or not. And I think registering it brings the value. It's important to recognize the value and nature of your IP asset. So this is your brand. And second, understand how to best protect these. That's the registration part. Of course, you can trade without a trademark, but we've gone over the pitfalls, not being able to enforce it and not being able to exclusively use it, which can be problematic. It's important to start your branding journey with the end in mind. Where will you be in 2, 3, and 5 years? Think big and aim big. No one started off thinking, I just want to be a small, shop. If you're online, you've already got such a large reach. So there are upfront costs involved in seeking brand protection, but ultimately it pays off in the end. This is especially the case if you need to enforce your rights or have your business valued. Your business needs is IP protected. And as you saw in the first slides, the value of Nike and the Apple brands. Why do you want to protect your IP? So that your competitors do not use it for their own advantage, and also ensure your business retains the value of IP. Most importantly, we recommend seeking to protect your IP early and broadly. If you'd like to understand more about what valuable IP assets you may have, or are keen to move forward with protection, contact us and our legal team today, and one of our experienced intellectual property lawyers will be happy to help you. So LegalVision is a full-service law firm. We can assist with all aspects of your business legal needs. We also have a dedicated IP team, which I'm part of, and we regularly assist businesses with protection strategies, registering IP, enforcing IP rights, and licensing them, setting up franchise documents and license agreements. If you have invested time and energy and capital in your business, you should have a dedicated and enthusiastic legal team to protect those investments. Here at LegalVision, we are passionate about our clients and committed to the success of their businesses. Thanks for attending today, guys. Look forward to your questions and answering further questions, and hopefully we'll touch base soon.